Hey, welcome to the OrtoTech Garage. My name's Keith. Today I have something pretty unique for you. I've got a Porsche 911 992 in the garage that needs a ceramic coating applied to it. And I thought this would be a good example for you to show you the whole process start to finish. We have to get in there, we gotta wash it, we gotta clay bar the car, we're gonna polish the surfaces on it, and then we're gonna apply the ceramic coat and another second coating, hydrophobic coating to it. So I kind of wanted to show you the whole process. This is a very long, labor-intense process. Start to finish is going to be an entire day's worth of stuff. So we're going to condense this down to some manageable bites for you. In between some of the shots here, we're just going to go ahead and document some of the things we're doing, talk about the processes and the materials and things. But I thought it would be really fun for you guys to follow along, watch this car kind of transform. And then at the end of this video, I want to discuss the differences in paint protection. So like paint protection film versus a ceramic coating versus regular wax, and just kind of describe the differences to you, my thoughts and feelings on each one of those, and just kind of give you a summary here at the end. But this car is getting this ceramic coating either way, and I want you to see what the process is and understand what's involved in it. So let's get out in the garage and get after it. Okay, before I get too deep into this project, I just wanted to talk about some of the products that we're going to need in order to perform the tasks today. We're going to walk through a few of these items. I wanted to put a little disclaimer in here. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. These are just products I've come to use over the years. I know how they're going to react. I know how they work. I know what kind of finished product I'm going to end up with. I'm not affiliated with any of these companies, and I'm not making any money off any of these projects, so I just want to get that out there. But while we're working on this car, we've got some steps we need to take, and these are some of the products along the way we're going to be using. Obviously, we've washed the car already and use a little fallout remover on there in a couple of spots to test, see if we actually need it on this vehicle. In addition to that, we're going to be needing our sealers on here. We're going to be using the Crystal Serum Light, which you can buy through Amazon or anywhere. You do not need a commercial detailer's license for that. We're also going to be using the G-Technic V5 EXO. That's a top coat. We'll be putting some of this wheel armor, the C5 G-Technic wheel armor, on the wheels. And then I've got some other products, may not even use today, maybe save for another video, but I like to use their leather guard, especially on a car like this. And there's some ceramic top coat sealant. We'll be needing this product here, is the panel wipe. We'll be applying this to the entire vehicle before we ever install the ceramic coating on it. I've talked about the fallout remover already. And then there's a couple other little products here, some dash products and things that you can use as well. I've also got my DA Fine polish here from Rupes. This car is extremely clean, but it still needs to be polished, and we'll get into that a little bit as we move along. And I've got my Rupes polisher here. This is by far my favorite Rupes machine. It's my favorite machine out of any brand I've ever tried. This one just has very low vibration. It's gear driven so that the machine won't stop turning, if you apply a little too much pressure to a certain spot. So I really love this machine. It's my go-to all the time for polishing. And I've got a couple of polishing pads we're going to use with that, just a couple of fine pads. We don't need to do any coarse polishing on this vehicle. There's not a ton of paint correction to do on here. I've also got my clay bar here. We're going to clay bar this entire car before we get started, make sure there's no impurities stuck in the paint. And of course, I've always got some gloves handy, especially when we're applying the ceramic coat. You don't want to get that stuff on your hands. It's really not good for your skin. And a giant batch of clean, brand new microfiber towels in order to do the wiping of everything. So we're going to get right into it. Let's do it. The first step to doing any kind of paint correction or surface sealants, obviously, is just going to be washing the car. We're going to walk through that right now. Just a quick overview. I wanted to let you know that I do have this hyper wash here from Meguiar's. This is a product that I normally like to use when I'm washing and detailing a car. There are plenty of other products you can use out there. As a matter of fact, for this particular example, we can just use some dish soap. Dawn is great. It's going to remove all of the wax and any products that are on the car, so that's perfectly good to use, as long as you plan on reapplying some kind of surface sealant like we're going to do on this car here today. So no big deal stripping off the old products. We actually want to get them off of there. We're going to need to polish this car, and we can't have any wax on the car while we do that. All right, now that we've got this vehicle all washed up, I wanted to talk about this product for a second. This is iron and fallout remover. This is something you'll want to use if you have an older vehicle, something that's got some miles on it. This vehicle here has only got about 3,700 miles on it. I don't think this is a product that we really need to use on here. I've tested it in a couple of spots and I'm not getting any results from it. So I'm not going to waste a bunch of time using it, but I wanted to talk about it. Older vehicles, make sure you use a little iron and fallout remover. Get some of that stuff that's embedded in the paint out before we get started on the next step, which is going to be to clay bar the car. I've got a couple of things set up here. I'm getting ready to clay bar the vehicle. And I want to just talk to you about the clay bar for one moment here before we get started. I've selected a medium clay bar for now. It doesn't really matter particularly what brand you use. I believe this is a Chemical Guys clay bar, but anyone will work. They do come in a fine, a medium, of course, different variety of aggressiveness with the clay bar. But the purpose of the clay bar is to remove anything that's embedded in the clear coat of the paint. If we start polishing and we've got little bits of debris and stuff embedded in the paint, that stuff's just gonna push itself around and make the paint job worse. When we're doing a job like this and we want to put a semi-permanent coating on here, like a ceramic coat, it is critically important that we remove anything from the paint that we don't want to see in the future, 2 months from now. If there's any swirl marks in there, scratches, defects in the paint, they're going to be sealed in there after we put the sealer on. And we want to make sure everything's out of there. The paint looks amazing. It's immaculate. No swirl marks, no scratches, no hazing, nothing in the paint before we get started. This is just the first step. We got to go through the entire car with a clay bar. I wanted to make mention I have a plastic bag here. There's an easy way to check and feel for impurities in here. Any old plastic bag like this will work, a sandwich bag. If you just take a little, I'm using Last Touch Detailer because it's got a little lubricant in it. It's kind of slippery. If you spray some on the paint, and then you just rub it with the plastic bag, you can feel inside the impurities in the paint. It'll feel a little scratchy, a little bumpy. This car is feeling quite good, actually. I'm not feeling much in here. We're going to do it anyway. But you want to just feel for anything in there with the bag. This helps your touch and sensitivity a little bit to whatever is in the paint. As we move through this car, you guys are going to notice me spraying some product here, this Last Touch Detailer, and then scrubbing a little bit lightly with the clay bar. This one will do most of the work. There's not a lot of rubbing you want to do on here. It is an abrasive product, just like a polish, just like anything else that you might use to remove some materials. You don't want to be too aggressive with these things. You want to make sure you keep it fully lubricated, and then we'll wipe it down when we're done, and it will be ready for the next step. You'll generally want to work these in a couple of sections at a time. Don't do too much. You want to make sure the paint stays lubricated. I'll usually try to find a body line and work along the body line in between sections. This way I don't forget what I did or what areas need to be taken care of. So this clay bar right now is sliding along here very nicely. Again, you can feel some of the stuff coming out of here. You can also flip it over and you can take a look at your clay bar and see if it's starting to get dirty, some material in there. That's a good idea to check it once in a while, rotate it. If you need to, replace the clay with another piece of clay. All right, so I'm just wiping this back now a bit. This car really feels very clean as far as material that might be embedded in the paint. Not a lot of work to do on this one. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, especially if the car hasn't been taken care of very well. You might have to work a little harder with the clay bar, spend a little more time on each panel. So I finished up the clay bar process on this vehicle. The next step I want to do is go through with a little bit of water and 10% or so of isopropyl alcohol. I put about 1 to 10 ratio on here, so 1 part of 90% isopropyl alcohol, and then the rest is water in the bottle. And I just want to strip back any of this lubricant that I used while I was clay barring before I get into the polishing process. All right, I wiped everything down with that isopropyl alcohol and water. I feel like I've got all of the existing lubricant off the paint, so now we're ready to do some polishing on here. Now I want to let you know, one of the things I did is I went through this entire vehicle and just gave it a close inspection. I wanted to identify any problem areas that I needed to work on that might need something a little more aggressive than what I've got in my hand. And I really didn't see anything. There's maybe like one little spot behind the driver's side door. I'm going to take a look at that as I get it. I think I might be able to get it with this machine. There's a lot of different tools we can use here at our disposal. I selected this one because I thought this would get me through the entire car without having to do much else to it, and I think I still feel comfortable we can get through it all with this machine. We're going to be using a fine pad, a fine polish. Like I said, there's not a lot of defects on this paint. We just want to make sure there's no swirl marks, no scuffs or scratches or any kind of hazing or anything in the paint before we lock it in with our product here that we're going to seal it with. These pads come in different colors, especially if you're using the Rupes stuff. There's a white pad, which is very fine. This is fine. There's a medium and a coarse. The medium is green and the coarse, I believe, is blue. Same thing for the polishes. Again, we don't need to go anything aggressive on here. Let's get right into it. I want to show you how this works. We're going to take a few drops of this and we're going to apply it to our pad. We'll work it in a little bit, especially this pad hasn't been used yet today, so it'll absorb a little bit of extra polish. And then we're just going to work on this a little section at a time. I'll try to explain what I'm doing as I go, as I think of some things I want to mention to you. But otherwise, just follow along with me and let's get into it here and see how it looks. Again, with a fresh pad, I really like to make sure I've got a little bit of extra product to work with in here and rub a little bit around the edges of this pad. We'll be using a little bit of the side of it as well from time to time. We've got some small areas on here. I do have a smaller polishing tool, but I don't really think we'll need it. I think we should be able to get a couple of these tiny areas pretty well covered with this and just make sure everything's looking great before we put that sealer on there. Make sure you have a clean, new rag. At this point, everything we do from here on out, once we've polished something, we don't want to put any more scratches or scuffs into it. We want to introduce them with our rag. So we'll be going through a lot of these guys here. You know, you can get these from anywhere. I think I've got these from Costco or something. You just buy yourself a giant bundle of them. Let's consider them disposable when you're done. You can toss them, or if you want to put them in the wash, you can do that too. But when I'm doing a car like this and we're doing something as permanent and as important as putting a ceramic coat on it, I'm not reusing a rag at all. You know, everything should be fresh, what I would call virgin rags. They should be brand new. Change them out as frequently as you need to make sure we're not introducing any products or any material, foreign material back into the paint as we're trying to make it look brand new again. So again, this is a dual action machine, which means it spins in a circle in a rotary motion as well as it orbits or oscillates. And the reason for that is we don't want to introduce any swirl marks from our machine into the paint. So if we were doing an aggressive cut with some heavy compound, I would be using a rotary only machine. Rotary meaning it only spins and it spins at higher speed. A machine like that is great for fast correction work. So if we got a lot of deep scratches, a ton of swirl marks, maybe we're working on a dark colored car like a black car or something like that, we need to move a little bit quicker. So we'll probably use a rotary machine first to do the heavy cutting, maybe a wool pad on that even. We don't need that on this car. This car is beautiful the way it sits, and we just want to make sure that it looks as nice as it can, as clean as it can before we lock that paint in. So we're just going to be starting here with this process, the dual action machine, and we should be able to just finish up with the same product that we started with here, our fine polish. Not a compound, but a polish. This is much finer, much less abrasive than a compound would be. We'll work on little sections at a time, working back and forth. We'll polish them back with this soft, clean rag here as we're doing that, and we're gonna work our way around the entire car. You wanna try not to drag your cord over anything. Sometimes guys like to throw them over their shoulder. Sometimes that can get a little cumbersome. Just be careful with it. We're starting at some of the higher areas on this car for that reason. If you were to drag your cord across it and introduce a little bit of a mark or something, you're gonna come back over it later anyway. So just be a little careful with it and let's get going. So again, using the body lines, we'll spread this out a little bit. Find a patch that's workable here for a minute. And then I'll crank up the speed on this machine and just get going on it. All right, so I feel really good about that section there. I want to make a couple of notes. One, I'm not applying a lot of pressure to this machine. It's got some substantial weight to it. We're just going to glide it over the paint, especially for this fine polish. Not a lot of work we need to put into it. I want to make sure that you guys don't, if you're going to try this at home, don't rush through the polishing process. The particles in the polish are going to break down the more you work them. So we want to make sure that this starts off fine and it ends even finer as we work the product. So make sure you give it substantial time to go back and forth as you're polishing. Don't rush, don't go too fast. Stay off any of the edges as much as you can. Now we're using a foam pad here and a dual action machine. There's really no reason to tape off all the edges and things. Just stay off the edges. Nobody's gonna see anything on the edges unless you had a scratch in it already or something, but just work the large surface of the panels staying away from the edges. You can come up and touch them. It's okay. This machine's not gonna hurt it. But just be extra careful on anything that's got a sharp corner on it. You really don't want to be pressing on it or pushing too hard. You can lightly polish it. It's okay. Just keep in mind it's going to cut that hard edge with this polish a lot faster than it will a flat panel. So that being said, just quickly over it is okay, and then you can work the flat surfaces with the pad flat on the paint a little bit more than you do those edges. Okay. We're going to continue on through this car and polish the entire thing. So I think I've kind of explained this part of the process, and it's critically important that we polish this car really well. I mean, this particular job that we're doing today, it's all in the prep. It's almost like painting a car. If you don't get the prep work right, the paint job's going to look horrible. And the same is true of this ceramic coat product we're going to put on here. If we don't prep this car absolutely perfect, it's going to show in the ceramic product afterwards, and it's going to be even harder to clean up because we're going to lock it in. That ceramic product is designed to last years. It's going to seal in there. Think of it like a permanent wax. It's going to stay on there for a long time. So let's make sure we get this paint looking great before we do that. All right, so as we're finishing our polishing here, we want to make sure that we're inspecting our work. I like to get any kind of light you've got. The fluorescent usually works pretty good, and just kind of inspect this paint from different angles. You're looking for any swirl marks, any scuffs or scratches, anything you're not going to be happy with once you put the sealer on it. A nice thing about a color like this, it's very forgiving, so this doesn't show a lot of those things easily. You have to really look hard for them. It makes our job hard here as we're polishing because it's hard to see anything. We got to inspect extra, but it also makes our job easy at the end because chances are you're not going to see most of that anyway, even in direct sunlight. But definitely give it a good inspection as you're polishing and finishing up the sections that you believe you're happy with, and just make sure everything looks good on it. Well, it's been quite a while since I started polishing this vehicle. I think we're running on, I don't have my watch on, about 5 hours or so. So quite a bit of work in polishing the vehicle. We're wrapping that up right now. The next step here, I want to blow this entire vehicle off. Sometimes when you're polishing, you get a little bit of dust from the polish. We want to make sure we remove every speck of that dust. We don't want it to get embedded in our ceramic coat. So we're going to blow everything off. We're going to get our area cleaned up a little bit. We're going to wipe this car back down with alcohol one more time after we've blown it off, make sure everything is as clean as we can get it. We'll double check everything with the light one more time as well, make sure we didn't miss any spots, make sure everything looks great. Once we start applying this ceramic coat, there's no stopping. We're just going to keep moving along until it's finished, and there's no chance for correcting anything really while we're doing that, so we got to make sure we've got it all ahead of time. I've got the doors open here, and I'm taking care of the door jambs. I want to make sure there's no dust or debris inside the door jambs. I also want to wipe down all these jambs and make sure they're free and clear, check them for scratches and things. I want to put some ceramic coat on the door jambs as well as I'm working on this vehicle. We've had quite a bit of work here since we started, but now we're finally ready to put some ceramic coat on these body panels here. I've got a few items with me. I've got our panel wipe, I've got the crystal serum light, applicator pad, and a clean buffing towel. We're going to go ahead and use some panel wipe on the panels. This is the final removal of any kind of contamination. Maybe there's still a little bit of residue somewhere on the panel. This panel wipe will completely remove all that and get us perfectly prepped now to apply our crystal serum light, and I'll show you exactly how we do that. I'm starting here on the hood. This is a convertible. Normally I would start at the highest point of the car and kind of work my way down. Right now the hood is probably the highest point we've got, hood in the back of the car. We'll get the hood done and work our way around the fenders, and we're going to be applying this as quickly as we can, obviously waiting the proper amount of time in between buffing, but we want to just continue working on so that we can blend these panels together. We don't want to have any hard edges where we put some ceramic coat and we haven't buffed the edges in to blend them together. So we're just going to keep moving here, and you guys can follow along with me. You really want to pay special attention here with this panel wipe. We want to be absolutely certain that there aren't any scuffs or marks, any residue left over before we apply our ceramic coating. All right, so I've got my crystal serum light out. I've got my little applicator here. There is one that comes with this, but I kind of like to use these suede ones here. I'm going to take some product in here. I'm going to saturate one side just a bit as I do this. Normally a couple of drops is okay, but we're just getting started with this. I'd like to put a little bit of extra product on it. There'll be plenty for this car. And we're going to set this off to the side. I'm going to take my rag with this panel wipe here. Just make sure I didn't get anything on here. Give one last wipe here before I apply. And then I'm going to work my way down this panel. So we're just going back and forth, making sure we don't miss any spots. And then we're going to overlap every panel we do just a tiny bit. I'm going to wrap around the edges of this a little bit and in the crevice here. We got to work a little fast today because it's fairly warm in here. Probably a good 75 degrees at least. And we're just going to let this product set up here for a minute. I'm going to get a clean towel. And what I'm looking for is this product to start to bubble a little bit. It's flashing pretty quickly today. We want to see if I can show you close up. I'm going to apply a little more product. See if you can show you what it looks like here. It's almost like a thin film, and it will just start to haze up, and you'll see some tiny little bubbles in there. It's working pretty quick here today. I don't know if it's easy to see with the camera. And we're just going to let that sit for a little bit until it starts to flash, and then we're going to buff it back. And when we start to buff with this clean towel, we're going to go overlapping the panels and make sure we don't miss any spots. Yeah, and this product is flashing very quickly today. So we're going to start working it back. All right, now we're going to overlap a bit. One of the nice things I like about this product is that it seems to reactivate itself before it cures if you overlap some on your panel. And you can kind of reactivate it a little bit if you had a spot where you didn't get it completely buffed back. It's a little forgiving to use and overlap these panels a little bit. And this product is working. It's flashing very quickly today because of the heat. So I'm going to move a little bit faster than I normally would. I don't know if you can see here, we're going to try to get a close-up for you, or in the light, where you can see the crystal serum light is actually starting to bubble a little bit. That means it's activating. And we want to catch it somewhere here soon to buff it back. So as it starts to bubble up, I'm going to let it set just another few seconds probably, and then we're going to buff it. So because of the temperature today, I switched applicators. This foam one it doesn't seem to absorb the product as fast. That suede one that I like to use is really soaking it up pretty quickly, so I'm not getting as much product on the car as I wanted with that applicator. That's why I've changed pads here to the one that came with the crystal light. So I've pretty much wrapped up the front clip-on here. We've got the hood, both fenders in the front, and the front bumper. Just going back through it one more time with another clean towel. I want to make sure there's absolutely no residue left over. We want to completely buff everything back. and blend all the panels together the best we can. We shouldn't see any marks or seams or lines anywhere. So I'm just gonna touch that up real quick and make sure. I did want to mention as well, I've put some of this coating on the headlamps, and I'll use it on the plastic as well. There's other products that they have, this company that has specifically for plastic, but I haven't found any difference in them. So for ease of installation, I just go ahead and coat all of these things with this product, and I've had zero problem with it, and I really like the results, so I'll continue to do that. It's been a long while here. I want to tell you it's probably been at least another 2 hours or so to apply that first coat of the G-Technic Crystal Serum Light. It's probably long enough. This thing is set up just about the perfect amount of time for us to come back over with a second coat. This is G-Technic's XO V5. This is supposed to be their hydrophobic coating. So we're gonna apply this on there and repeat the process basically. It's exactly the same thing. We're gonna start in the same spot we started with the other product. This way we've got that full 2 hours time in between applying the first coat and applying this coat. All right, guys, it's been a long, hard day's work for me, getting this car cleaned up, making it look fantastic. I can tell you that this car really is looking good now with this ceramic coating on there. It's really increased the depth of the paint, the clarity of the paint. It's given it a coat of protection that's going to last a couple of years at least. I know some of these ceramic products, they advertise 5, 7, 10 years. My experience has been you're not going to get anywhere near that out of this product. I would think of this ceramic coating as more of a fancy wax. So you may wax your car every 3 to 6 months, maybe every 9 months, depending on how lazy you are. I know I'm not the best keeping up with my car either, but when you have a ceramic coating like this, it should last you at least 2, 3, 4 years. You know, this is something that's going to be a longer lasting product. The only caveat to that is you're going to have to really wash this by hand. These products are not made to go through the machine wash, and you got the brushes dragging on them with the little flaps on there that are filthy from everybody else's car. So this is kind of like a product you put on if you plan to hand wash your car a lot. I can tell you from experience, because I've had this on several cars of my own, that this product requires you to wash it, but it also helps you wash it a lot easier. You're going to find that bird poop and all kinds of debris don't stick to the paint anywhere near as bad as it does with the conventional wax. It's much easier to clean. The water slides right off. It is a nice product. The question is it worth the money? If you take it somewhere and it's going to cost you $2,000 to have somebody do all the polishing and everything and then ceramic coat it, I'm not sure the value is there. Now, I just wanted to kind of back up to it. You know, we've got some other choices here for paint protection. The other common one is paint protection film. With the paint protection film, you're going to spend a lot more money. To get an entire car wrapped with the paint protection film is probably going to cost you a minimum $4,000, and you know, prices can go up. It obviously depends on the kind of car. I think a car like this, they'll probably charge you $8,000, $9,000. I don't know. You know, the price goes up with the value of the car, I think. So, you know, I don't know if the value is there either, because I showed you guys when we were doing the polishing, this car has the PPF right around the wheel humps at the back where all the rocks come. And it doesn't look great either. You know, it's got chips in it already. It's, you know, this car, as I told you, it's got, let's say, 3,800 miles on it. There's already chips in the PPF, and you can't get that out. You know, you just have to replace the PPF. So the question is, how long is it going to take before your paint protection film looks like crap, and then you've got to peel it off and redo it anyway, okay? And then another concern of mine with PTF is a lot of these guys, they use their razor knife and they cut right on the car. They cut the film. Now, I know there's some really skilled installers out there that are really good with their razor knife. I'm not sure I feel confident somebody putting a razor knife right that close to my paint where they have to get through the PPF but not get your paint. For me, that's a little scary prospect. You know, if they're cutting your PPF and they cut the line, you're not going to see it until you take the PPF off again, because it's going to be right on the seam. So you'll never know the paint was cut. So I just wanted to give you a couple of these tips with these products, you know, what they are. You know, the ceramic is certainly been advertised as some miracle product. It is nowhere near that. It's, you know, you're not going to set the car on fire. You're not going to scratch it with keys and have it be protected. It's not going to protect from rock chips or any of those things. It's more of think of it as a heavy-duty wax. That's it. So, and I'm only just telling you from experience. I've used this product on a lot of my own cars just because I like the way it cleans up. But definitely no rock protection on there, no scratch protection. You'll scratch right through the ceramic and into your paint, no problem. It's, you know, it's not going to give you that level of protection like a PPF might. PPF is a lot better in that regard, is that it will prevent some scratching on there, especially some of the mild scratches. It'll definitely prevent a couple of the rock chips from getting into the paint, but it won't prevent them from penetrating and damaging the PPF. So those are your choices on those two. They're both fairly costly. The third choice is to put nothing on there other than a coat of wax. If you get a couple of rot chips, so be it. You know, maybe just down the road you might have to paint the car at some point, you know, have the rock chips filled in or whatever. So those are kind of your three options. You put nothing on there but a coat of wax, you put some ceramic coating, aka heavy duty wax, or you put a PPF film on there, which is going to be the most protective. Now guys, I can tell you too, from experience with PPF, there's some really good products out there, but I don't love the way PPF looks, okay? When you've got a really nice paint job, let's say you've got, this car is a little different, it's a little bit of a flat color. Not to say it doesn't look good, but it doesn't have the same appeal that a pearl paint has. And I think when you really want to see the depth of the paint and you put a PPF over it, it just kind of kills that for me. And this is my personal opinion. I know there's people out there that are going to disagree with me. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But when I see really nice cars with PPF on it, they just don't reveal the paint and the depth, the clarity, and the quality like you're going to get out of a ceramic coat. And this is probably why if I was going to put anything in my car, I put the ceramic coat, because I understand what it can and can't do. I love the way it looks. The product, it really does shear the water off it nicely so it doesn't build up on there. And especially where we live in the desert out here, we've got this hard water. If you're washing your car by hand, you don't want that water sitting on the paint. The minerals in it are there's so much mineral material you know, with this hard water that, you know, it'll easily just kind of evaporate and leave those mineral deposits on your paint, which are very hard to get off. So just to summarize, I guess my personal choice, if I'm going to put something on, I'm either just going to do some wax or some ceramic coat, and I'll plan to do that every couple of years at least. Don't plan on it lasting 5 to 7 years. I think that's kind of nonsense from what I've seen. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you really enjoyed the process. I know it's kind of a lot less of me describing some things and maybe a little bit more of the action going on. I hope that you enjoyed the process either way, help you understand what's involved. For the guys out there that are doing this ceramic coating, kudos to you. It's a ton of work, okay? The ceramic coat goes on fairly easy. It's the prep work, and I think I talked about that in the video. It's very, very labor intense to get the car polished properly. This car is a flat gray color. I think they call it chalk or something. If you've got a black car or a dark blue car, those are the hardest colors to remove all the imperfections in the paint. We did a single stage polishing on this car, 3,800 miles. The paint looked fantastic. It's not a dark color. There's no pearl in it. This project can go completely, you know, probably double the time on the polishing easy if you need to do a couple stages on it. And I'm talking about, you know, polish it with a rotary machine and then go back over it with a dual action machine to remove the rest of the swirl marks that the rotary machine put in. And then you might even have to do a second level of polishing with a finer polish. Dark cars are extremely hard to make look incredible. So keep that in mind if you're doing this type of project on your own car. If you got a dark paint, you're in for a whole boatload of work, and it may not be worth your time. Don't be mad at your installers if they want to charge you a couple grand, $2,500, whatever, to do this process, because it could easily be 2 days worth of just polishing. Okay, the coating goes on fast either way, especially if you only have to do a couple of coats, but the polishing is really the hardest part. Okay. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out our next video up here, and we'll see you in the next one.